The question is, do we have sound?
I just want to make sure we have sound from you.
That's what you get for dialing in from Vegas. Or whatever hotel hallway you're in.
She's home. She's watching her pups. She might- Are you texting me right now? Probably.
There she is.
Hey, Kate.
And you can text or tell. I don't have my phone on me. Everyone's waiting for Bob.
Right behind me.
Oh, there he is.
Pickleball.
Practice.
It wasn't.
Where am I sitting?
It wasn't.
You can come right here. though.
Cleaning up. Oh, no, after.
I'm just saying that it's like,
Yeah.
right, it's a substitute.
Up to Vermont.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
I've got it.
I just,
All right, she is. Okay, hopefully we don't need you, Jenna. All right, so I think BH plus A, we should probably get this started. All right, so before we get started, I don't know if you guys have read any of the emails. We do have to nominate a chair for today. That's where we need to begin. And I'd like to. How about the chair emeritus there? Bob?
Yeah. You've done it before?
I'll second that.
Yeah.
I was gonna nominate Kate.
So I'll make a motion to nominate Bob.
Did you just do it?
Yeah, good.
Jack just did.
Second.
Second.
And Kate, you are going to be our secretary today.
Yes,
Awesome. All right, you have the agenda on?
I do. All right, we're gonna call this meeting to order at 6:32. First thing on the agenda is discussion / approval of meeting minutes.
Did send them to everybody. I don't know if they had a chance to look at them. I noticed they had a typo on the date of one of them. I did fix that on the notes on one.
I have one change for them.
So-
Meeting we talked.
Oh,
You want to start with the February 20th, yeah, February 20th meeting? Want to start there, work backwards?
sure.
Discussion?
I was present at that meeting.
February 20th.
Yeah, because I made the motion to approve the January. Yeah.
There you go.
A clarification, I think it's a correction. If Jim Sullivan reports, rock salt and memorial courts. I think those were the basketball courts.
Basketball courts. Jenna's
Yeah.
last. Very thorough. Anyone in February?
Anything, anybody, anyone else?
I'll second it.
Right,
moved. Thank you.
Mike motioned, Rich seconded. We have to do a roll, call. We can just do we do roll call?
Anybody online? No.
No,
Anybody online? All in favor? All right. On to the March, is that date correct, March 5th?
Yeah.
All right, on to the meeting minutes for March 5th. Any discussion? All right. Anyone want to make a motion to accept them? What's this discussion?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it.
All right. All in favor? Here are the meeting minutes and let's see. All right, right, we're on to public comment. Is anyone here for public comment? Anybody online? No? All right, going once, going twice. All right. On to, we have to appoint a member to the CPA committee.
There is a cheat sheet if you're not sure what it entails. Here, and then we also have an email from Eric Gaffin that he wanted me to pass along. If you want to read it or not, but he
Sure.
said he would be willing to.
All right.
If he would, but he would be willing to nominate himself.
Okay,
And I did speak with the town clerk, Laura Gem. She said we were able to do this as well,
all right,
but
so,
there still would need to be a vote.
okay, so, Eric says he's interested in being on the CPA study committee. So we are mentioning that now. So is anybody else interested, I guess before we go, is anybody else interested in being a member of that committee? Would somebody like to nominate?
Motion made to nominate Eric.
Right. Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right,
Eric work.
all in favor?
It's funny.
All right, congratulations, Eric, if you're listening. Well, that was nice and easy. All right.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes,
And
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone misses Jenna.
all right, so it was quick. Now we're on to amplified sound requests. Moving along. All right, so it looks like the first one we have is from the Reading Lions Club for July 18th, 2024. It is their Lions Club Journey for Sight at Memorial Park from 5 p.m. to 9 p.m. They want to use sound equipment such as speakers, all right? Journal announcements, national anthem, and music. Does anyone have any comments about that? Or would somebody like to make a motion? It's the Lions Club. All right, so I got,
Move to approve the amplified sound request from the Lions Club.
all right, do we have a second? Mike seconded. All right, all in favor? All right, there we go. Give that back to you. All right, and again, we have the Lions Club requesting a sound permit for Reading Friends and Family Day at Birch Meadow Field from 10:30 to 3 p.m. Same, use sound speakers, musical instruments, general announcements, and music.
What's the date on that?
I'm sorry, that is June 8th, 2024,
Thank you.
and that is Reading Friends and Family Day.
Yep.
All right, motion, Mike,
I'll second it.
seconding it. All right, all in favor? It's on its way too. All right, look at this. Do this more often. All right, we are on to the Memorial Park donation. Michael Terry, installation of 6 service component flagpoles. Discussion and vote. Is Michael here? Michael,
Who wants to come
Thank
up
you.
and
thank you for joining
talk about
us.
the project and how we got here?
Yep.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
Oh, you.
Good evening, I'm Michael Terry. I'm a member of the Good Samaritan Masonic Lodge here in Reading. A few years ago, a friend of mine, not a Mason, mentioned a conversation he'd had with a member of town government asking if the town would be willing to raise the service flag of each of the services on the date of that service's founding. So the Army would be among the earliest, the Navy, the most recent obviously would be the Space Force. That basically went nowhere when my friend was told that they'd raise no flag on the town common other than the American flag and the POW flag. I talked with other friends of mine about it in our lodge, and we proposed the idea of donating 6 flagpoles to the town, initially to be put behind the war memorial just across the street from town hall. I spoke with our veterans agent, Will. We looked at it, thought it was a good idea. And then we also spoke with the DPW. DPW looked at the idea, they liked it, but they looked at the area we wanted to post those flags, which were on either side of the main flagpole behind the war memorial. And there were several issues with that. One was there are irrigation pipes there that would be required to be moved if we were to sink foundations for 6 flagpoles. Second, there's a tree off to the left that would need to be trimmed significantly if we're going to do that because of the spacing required by the poles. And then thirdly, we learned that the foundation for the monument itself, the existing monument, is less than completely stable And the town was concerned about digging 6 more holes behind that monument. The discussion then went to where else would be suitable. And as I think all of you know, that there was a move of the World War I memorial stone from the far side of Memorial Park, if you're looking from here, to the near side right on Harrison and Charles. At that time, the stone got moved and also a 25-foot flagpole was erected with the national colors on it. The DPW came back to us and said, what would you think about putting the flagpoles for the 6 service branches flanking that American flagpole? So we looked at it and said, yeah, that sounds like a great idea. We've raised the money, the flagpoles are in hand. I understand that there may have been some process questions. As citizens of the town and not necessarily involved in town government to any great depth, we don't necessarily know process. We spoke to town members and we expect that, they would kind of shepherd us through. So we're hopeful that the town will accept our donation. And the hope is further that we will be able to have a small ceremony on Memorial Day this year, probably after the various cemetery services. I'm thinking probably something 3:00, 3:30. And then Will very wisely suggested a bigger ceremony on Veterans Day in November with potentially an honor squad from the Reading Police, perhaps some military branch personnel as well. So that's what we're looking to accomplish, and we're very excited about the project.
And then I'd like to mention too, as with Will and Mr. Terry, we did go out to the site where they have, and I'm going to share my screen just so you can see it. And the spot that he was speaking of is the one that's directly across from Town Hall over at the cemetery as well. That's where there was the issue with the groundwork there as well. So I can share my screen. This here would be the layout. So it's basically, I'd call it almost like a half shell. We kind of walked it apart, and Will had said that they need to be about 5 feet apart. I think we're close to 6 feet. Is that where?
They'd be 6 feet apart. The flags will be they'll be 3 by 5 foot flags that we are donating, and we committed to maintaining the quality of those flags. I hesitate to say in perpetuity, but we've committed to supplying those flags as well as the national colors as well. So we will take care of that. There should be no ongoing maintenance as far as the town replacing flags as they age.
And I know DPW did bring up a point. They might be extending that little mulch area just so they don't have to weed whack around that as well too. So it'd be extended a little bit. It's really not taking away from really the field. I know myself, I know Jenna, Will, I think we're all on board. I think this is a great spot. It's going to be a nice look. Obviously coming from, that's Charles, right? Still getting my street names.
Yep.
Yeah.
Coming up from Charles, it's a straight shot. And I think it's fitting being at Memorial Park as
How
well.
close are those, you said they're 6 feet apart, those orange flags?
Those cones.
Those cones are 6 feet apart on the arc. Yep.
And how tall are the poles?
The poles will be 20 feet above ground.
And how tall is this pole?
This pole is 25 feet.
And those are the requirements, right? That it has to be lower than,
That's correct, right? Will? It's gotta be lower.
It's equal to or lower than.
okay.
So these have all the other, and with the addition of the Space Force, the same ones that are Reading Memorial High School on the wall there, it's the same.
Yes,
Good.
with the service flag, which would be different
Right.
from the medallion.
Right,
on the wall. But yeah, Army, Navy, Air Force, Marine Corps, Coast Guard,
Guard.
Space Force, yeah.
So Mike or Will, is there a requirement to light these?
As far as I know, there's not a requirement, although there is already lighting on the national colors. And these poles will be within the arc of that lighting, so
But no dedicated light for them?
no dedicated lights needed.
And that was a concern from one neighbor. We did receive one call from one neighbor and she was curious if there would be more lighting, and we had told her that there wasn't. And then I also received 2 emails as well from neighbors that were in full support of this. I could mention their names. They said that we can speak on their behalf. I don't know if you want to do that.
All right, so this is from Margaret Connors, dear Mr. Sullivan. I'm writing in regard to the proposed placement of 6 flagpoles presenting the 6 components of the U.S. military at Memorial Park in Reading. As a resident of 1 Charles Street and neighbor of Memorial Park, I strongly support this proposal and hope it will be favorably acted upon as soon as possible. Thanks for your notice of this proposal and for this opportunity to respond to it. Sincerely, Margaret E. Connors, 1 Charles Street, Unit 5, I'm sorry, Unit S. And another email we have from, this is from John Cortez, sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, 57 Harrison Street. Dear Mr. Sullivan, in regards to the letter that you sent, I am a homeowner located at 57 Harrison Street. I will be unable to attend the meeting on April 9th regarding the installation of flagpoles at Memorial Park. However, I strongly support this installation endeavor and wanted to email and let you know. Thank you, John Cortez, 57 Harrison Street.
And I think it's also important to mention on that site visit as well, I think we had 2 neighbors that had come out that were also in full support. They were direct abutters from there. I think they were both in some branches of the military as well.
I know one was Air Force. I'm not sure about the other. And there was a third who didn't come over, but he gave me a big thumbs up. And he was a neighbor of the other one who did come by. So
This ends with us, right? Or does it go to the select board next?
I mean, I think Janet, would you have the answer on that? Should this be brought up to the select board with it going on a park?
Yeah, so Matt Cornelis, the town manager, I spoke with him today about it, and he said just let him know the outcome. He'll reach out to the select board about the recreation committee recommendation or approval. And if the select board decides that they, need to vote on it, they will do so. And if not, it can move forward. So either way, we can let Mr. Terry know.
Thank you.
The flags will be up 24 hours.
they'd be up 24/7, just like the national colors are.
I move to enthusiastically support this recommendation. And thank you for the donation.
Yeah.
Well, again, it's the Good Samaritan Lodge, not just me. But yeah, we're very thrilled about it. Thank you for the support.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that and thank you again. Yeah.
Do we have any discussion, any further discussion before we vote?
I just have one quick one. Are the words engraved on the granite block, is that a done deal, or are we soliciting any input?
Is that the stone that was, you talking about the stone that was?
Yeah, I'm sorry if I'm not being clear. It's just the stone at the base of the flag. I didn't know. I saw some engraving. I figured it's like, memorial to fallen soldiers or something, but I just wasn't sure if that was already done or if we were going to look in the community.
Yeah, so that boulder is actually pre-existing, and there's no intention of adding anything further to the boulder at this time. It's the original one.
My
And
understanding
the
is that
flagpole has
name's-
a plaque on it that is donated to TJ McGrath.
What's the inscription on it?
I did read it when I was there.
Farther, Jim, come on.
I am, but I'm getting.
Never mind, I don't want to hold it up.
Yeah, there are names on there.
Oh, it's just names? All right.
It names Reading men who served in World War I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the plaque on the other end, it was that, right, on the far end by Lowell Street, right?
Yes.
There it says something.
The Rockwell, yeah.
Yeah.
Eric, that's where this one came from.
I think it said,
So they moved it over. Did they do that when they redid the wall?
They redid the wall.
Oh, okay.
I think it says honor the hero who gave his life that we might live in freedom.
Yeah.
And then it's got his names in there.
That's true.
Right.
That's all.
Any other comments before we vote?
I mean, the one thing I can add is, that people do play things and stuff like that down there. These flags are well into the corner of the park, so it doesn't affect any of the.
So it's a really good location.
Yeah, I think it's a great location.
I just asked, I was like trying to figure it out. Way in the corner and the
Right.
Google Maps that I have doesn't
And
even have it on there.
The light is from a street pole across the street. And it'd be lovely if we got a better light, but, because that's a very bright light.
Yeah, that's what I
a
heard.
question for Will. Is it still required? I thought I read somewhere that you don't have to have a light on a flag anymore. That
On the national colors.
you still do?
flown 24 hours.
Correct.
That's pretty much the standard.
That's what I thought.
Sunset, if you don't take it.
not in compliance with the standard of flying the national colors. So it should always be lit. It's fly 24 hours a day, so.
And as you mentioned, Michael, too, when the neighbor who was asking if there would be more lighting, she did mention that that light was a little bit intense as well. I haven't seen it at night myself, but I mean, it's something we can certainly look at down the road.
It'd be nice if, I mean, the traditional thing is lights at the base of the flag.
Yeah, it's the uplighting.
But that's down the road.
Man.
And maybe the Samaritans want to take that.
Take that into consideration, Mike.
About 6 bucks. I like it. This is really.
The Samaritans, I like how you like.
You know how much flagpoles are?
Good Samaritans, not rich Samaritans.
I got a yard arm down in Chatham that I have to light up.
And they can be sold with.
And you good with that answer?
Yeah,
we have
thank
to-
you. I just had one more little question. Are these 6 flags, are they gonna be observing like half flag, half mast? And then I was curious because the flagpole in front of Coolidge is at half mast 300 days a year. So I just had a question about half mast.
I would expect that we would need to drop those flags to half staff. I think that if the national colors are at half staff, Will, correct me if I'm wrong. If the national colors are at half staff, you would drop any other flags in the vicinity as well.
So it still can't be any higher.
Right.
Thank you.
And it's just, is that a town policy when they lower the one out here? Do they lower the ones at all the other places?
Good question.
I don't might have.
I think they're supposed to.
I think they're supposed to, that's just another thing to deal with,
I noticed one of them was half staff today, and I wasn't sure what that was about.
right?
So.
Anytime that the governor or the president of the United States orders the national colors to be lowered, it's lowered on all the state and town buildings. And no other flag can fly higher than the national standard, so.
I'm all for this.
All right, let's vote. All in favor of accepting the donation?
That doesn't count, but.
Right, I thought the exact same thing.
I feel bad not putting my hand up. Just gotta throw it up for good measure. Appreciate it. It's on video.
Thank you for the donation.
Thank you very much. I'll pass this on to the members of the lodge, and I really appreciate your time and your consideration. And more importantly, your vote.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And we learned something.
Yes.
Put a spotlight on my yard now.
I need my way too close. Way too close.
Oh, I do that in red. No, we're
So close.
That's what I was afraid of.
It's one of these.
Down on the Cape.
on the cave. No,
We do.
it's yard arm.
You need it. I was just looking for another one on the box.
All right, next item on the agenda is
Some needs lighting.
I know.
in a presentation of community center locations and discussion.
And I think we are now changing that name to the Reading
Center for
Center
Center
for Active
Living.
Living. And I think we have our presenter on here, correct, Jenna? Is he in here yet or no?
Or is he?
Yes, Joel is here. He's been working with his team and Recalc and the COA very closely for the past few months now. I think they officially started in January. So we've identified 3 locations, and he's done a tremendous amount of work figuring out all of the ins and outs of all the site locations. And he has some really detailed and great information. And since there is talk about perhaps this, obviously the priority is for our senior 60 plus population, but with survey results and some community input, there is a desire for perhaps a community center as well. So we thought it would be a good opportunity for the Recreation Committee to weigh in on their thoughts and just get an update on all of the findings so far. So I'll hand it over to Joel. Joel, thanks for being here.
Thank you. And Joel, if you can't share your screen for some reason, I know there might have been some concern that you can't. I do have it, but it looks like you are sharing your screen right now. So perfect.
Good timing, Jim.
So thank you. My name's Joel Bergman, and This is a long presentation that was put together for the Senior Center, Council on Aging and Recalc Committee. And there's sections of it I'm going to go through quickly. I thought it was good to keep it all together though, so that when it goes on the town website, anyone else that looks at it sees the whole comprehensive presentation. But I know there are parts of it that I don't know to need to go into such detail. The first slide is just expressing the problems at the existing building and why that is in need of either expansion or major renovation or finding some other site. It's the renovation there is 30 years old. But most importantly, it only has 4,000 square feet of usable space. And you'll see we're talking about 15 to 16,000 more total usable space in a new facility. All that translates into the inability to meet, needs and services. And Reading, not unlike any other community we're working at, you're actually a little bit on the low side. Some communities were hitting 35 to 50%. Down on the Cape, you hit 55% senior population in some of those communities. So it's a need that needs to be filled. And this is just pointing out that when we do.
Jim, just maybe mute Judy, if you can.
People tell us don't say if you build it, they will come. But I won't say it. This is a slide that just points out Situate, Falmouth, many of our other community centers, senior centers, when you build it, their population that uses the facility just skyrockets 200 to 300% in communities. So Jenna opened it by saying there's going to be senior focus. The trend, and I won't speak for Reading, but I'll speak for other communities we're working with, is to bring recreation into and other town departments into the senior center when those senior center spaces are not being used by the seniors, partly because they're so state-of-the-art with distance learning. The multi-purpose rooms have high-end audiovisual capacity, so Board of Selectmen, Finance Committee, those kind of meetings can be held in those rooms if you wanted to. And quite a few of our facilities are incorporating gyms, really at the behest of the recreation department, but then the seniors realize that there's a huge advantage to having that type of joint facility at a senior center where they can use the gym in the morning or afternoons, and then the community has the use of the gym at night. And that's a real popular feature that's gaining widespread incorporation into senior center buildings. So where we're at is we're about halfway through the whole process. We're at the end of looking at sites and trying to determine which is the preferred site. And when we get to that, hopefully that will happen the end of this month. Then we'll start schematic design and understand more about the building. Right now, we're focusing on the site, and as much as we can, we're leveling out the building across the site so that people don't say, well, I like X site because I like the building that's on X site better. Right now, the same building can fit on the two sites that have new buildings, and the program for Pleasant Street, we've gotten in one option to match the program of the other sites, so that as much as we can, the building itself is not the deciding factor on which site you like best. There are three sites considered. Pleasant Street's your 49 Pleasant Street building right near the center of town, the existing building. Then Oakland Road is out by the high school. It's a site that was actually partially used during the high school construction for fill and construction staging. And then the third site is up in the right corner, Simmons Way. It's next to the ice arena, and out there where the Nike missile site was in the 60s. The first site I'll just walk you through is the downtown Pleasant Street site. It's really a half an acre, 22,000 square feet. It's a tight site. That's a 4,000 square foot usable. It's 2,000 on a floor. There's happens to be a basement, but that basement has a very low ceiling height, so it could be used for maybe storage, but you can't really legally walk in it. It's less than 7 feet high as a ceiling height. So it's a struggle to add if you have 4,000 square feet of usable space, and our program is 18,000 square feet without a gym, and about 26,000 square feet when you get the gym and the track. So those far exceed the total square footage of the site, and you'll see it when you put that program on the site and you try to put parking on there, it virtually fills every inch other than this little area here. This is a ramp that takes you in to of all things, a parking garage. So you have 2 levels of parking underneath program space in this box, and that parks approximately 52 cars, which in reality, you would have to put additional cars out on the street. So there's 7 spaces in front of the building, and there are other spaces in the neighborhood you'd have to find to park your car in a space. The reason being is that a facility of this size, we usually look to get 70 spaces on site for daily use, and then somewhere around 80 to 90, 95 for peak use. What is nice is that by putting the parking underneath the building, it's all within 125 feet of the front door, and that's really excellent for seniors. There's a second option. That first one showed the building with a gym, and one of the problems with that is that the program is just so big that we're going over setback lines on the side yard, on the street side. There are many areas where the building just goes beyond what the zoning says is your building envelope. Now, the town is exempt from their own zoning, but the working group, Recalc, and Council on Aging have sort of felt that we should at least abide, at least point out, if not abide, by the zoning setback requirements, the height, the bulk, the floor area ratios, what would be typical zoning bylaws that are put in to protect the neighborhood, and you wouldn't want to be the cause of you know, not protecting the neighborhood, because you can see you're right next to some residential buildings. Right here, you're 20 feet away from 16 Parker Street. So as you can see, there's the north side, and then where the doors are is the west side. The additions on the far end and the rear of the building. These are 3 historic bays that in the 50s and 60s, there were 2 bays. In the 90s, they renovated the building, put the 3 bays back. So this is its sort of historic appearance of that facade. It is a National Historic Building. This is a great image because it shows the bulk of a gym, which is 6,500 square foot, has a high ceiling for basketball, volleyball, has program space in the front and program space in the building, but the building that looks like this on the street is fully dwarfed by the addition. And then off of Parker Street, you have a ramp going into the lower level of the garage. Off of Pleasant Street, you have a driveway that goes into the upper level of the garage, and those 2 garage levels don't connect. So that's another little issue with the parking. It would be somewhat frustrating to find a space. And if you're going this way and you can't go in and can't find a space, then you have to come around and go down here and see if you can get a space. And that's never easy to turn around in a garage. So that's clearly one of the detriments to this particular option. On this option, that is a 1990s addition that would come off to facilitate the new building. That's really 90% of it is on this side of the building. And it actually is quite nice because the way the site naturally slopes, you can get that lower garage level in without having to do a major amount of excavation. Pleasant Street is 8 feet above here and this slopes down, so almost works out without a huge takeaway of soil from the site. But you do want to recognize that when I have that large addition, we're right next to a 2.5-story sort of multi-unit house, and then a single-family dwelling here it's 2 stories, but it's not quite an antique, but it's 8-foot floor to the ceiling heights. It's not a modern house that has higher ceiling heights. It's quite a small property, and both of those are really encroached upon by the building. What's nice about this site is it comes fully filled with site utilities. Not all the sites have that. And there's nothing to worry about from an environmental perspective, no wetlands, no floodplains. The traffic and parking, mentioned the parking is short by 18 to 20 spaces on a daily basis. You'd have to find spaces elsewhere in town and walk to the facility, which is not impossible. And then at times you will have a lunch event or a special speaker, and you would want more than your daily use. So you'd peak out at roughly 90. Generally, we size the parking lots for 90 to 100 users. That accommodates most recreation and senior center uses. And then if there's some very special event, then there's a traffic management plan with perhaps some busing to another lot or some other way of dealing with it. You don't want to put such a huge parking lot on it that's not used, because the asphalt is not drainable. It's not great from a stormwater management, and it gets very hot in the summer. The driveway is off of Parker Street, doesn't have great view distances. The driveway off of Pleasant Street has good right and left visibility, but on Parker Street, it's less than 200 feet. And seniors really look for 250 feet in each direction, clear visibility, so that you can get out of your building, out of your parking lot, make a left turn and not feel hurried or harried in doing that. The building use is allowed by special permit in this district, so that's good. The issues where it doesn't comply is on the front yard and the side yard. But what is interesting is that in the scheme that doesn't have the gym, well, if we don't have to have a gym, we can skinny up the building a little bit, because the gym has a certain width for basketball. We can get our setbacks in around this building and this building, and we can make that building fully comply. So if perchance the option of doing this without a gym was desirable, it is less expensive. That would get you fully compliant with the zoning perspective. All right, site 2 is Oakland Road, and it's a site that sort of rings this road. It's next to the high school, and while we haven't had any direct talk, that issue of, the occasional overflow parking seems like something we could approach the school on occasion with some advanced planning and find advanced parking, either on overflow parking, either on a weekend when there might be a basketball tournament in the gym, or on a night event when there's a big selectmen's meeting or some other type of event where you would observe overflow parking. This site is on a curve right here. What we are doing is moving driveway entry opposite, at the suggestion of our traffic engineers, opposite the high school driveway. It's best to line up your driveways because you can see and stagger your cars much better when the driveways line up. You come in and then you would come to a site that has 93 parking spaces in it, which is great. And that portion of the site happens to be flat because that was where they put fill when they built the high school. They dumped all the fill in this area. Flattens out the site, but that fill is something that would have to be dealt with, compacted, and is brought into the cost estimate. The building sits on this portion of the site. A good portion of the parking is within 125 feet of the building. We're showing for pickleball lots. It doesn't, they're shown to really show that it's not a great idea on this site. This portion of the site, each one of these contours indicates that this is a rising site. It's very steep here. It's very expensive to put the pickleball in, but even more so, you can see the proximity to residential properties. And pickleball, as you may well know, can be noisy and irritating to neighbors. So we showed this really to identify that if we know pickleball is desired, but it may be the idea to separate them to a different site and not try to get them on the senior center site, even though they're quite desirable for this particular program. So you come around the site, you can sort of see that this is all going uphill. We put the parking in the building in the low portion, but it goes up quite high here behind the building, and here it goes up quite high, and there's a neighbor that we want to be as careful about encroaching on as possible. So there is a pretty good buffer around that neighbor's house. And here you can see how dense that site is in the summertime. And you can also get a sense of how much the site's going uphill. So there it's rising. Here it's rising even more. And then behind this house, it rises quite a bit. And here you can see we don't want to put pickleball because you'd be right in that person's backyard. And when that person bought the house, this whole land was drawn up and proposed to be single family houses. So they didn't buy that house or buy that lot, however it went down, knowing that there might be a institutional building or a town building next to them. So I think you do want to be cognizant of their being next door. Beautiful sight lines on either direction from the driveway at the high school and the driveway to the senior center. So that's great. You come out of there and you want to make your left turn or come out, that's not really an issue. Plenty of sight line. There you can see that steep hill for pickleball, be complicated to get it in there. The complication on this site is this area was filled, and you can see it's relatively level. It was filled during the school construction, and that would cause an extra cost to the portions of the building foundation that go into that fill area. It means that the building really doesn't want to go in the fill area. The building sort of wants to migrate to this side of the site. And as a consequence, these red lines are the lines that the geotechnical engineers identified as the bedrock to this site. And some of that bedrock would have to be removed. And if this was a chosen site, then we would have to do a study for how that might be done without a lot of noise and without a vibration, because you do have many residential properties surrounding that site. So that's something to be thought of as we go to the next stage. If this is the preferred site, we don't think it's a deal breaker when you look at the topography and the depth of the bedrock. It's probably workable, but it is something to contend with. This is more of interest to the legal department in the town, so I'll skip over that. Again, there's municipal water available, but sewer is not available on the site. We'd have to bring sewer to the site or learn more about I believe the school is on a pump station, and see if there's additional capacity that could be pumped into that sewer line. Right now, we're carrying in the budget extension of the sewer to the site. The stormwater would be handled on site. There's no flood issues, and there's no wetland resource areas. So that's great about this site. The zoning ordinance asks you for 79 spaces. We have 95, so you're well within what we said is the low end and the peak end. Existing road I mentioned is very nice on that site. Oddly enough, a community center per se is not an allowed use on this site, but they do allow nonprofit cultural facilities, and that would be as a special permit via Community Planning and Development Commission. And then a civic club is permitted as a special permit by Zoning Board of Appeals. It's felt that a senior center would fall well within a cultural facility, nonprofit cultural facility, and would be allowed with a special permit on this site. All the other zoning requirements are met. The last site is a really interesting site. It's sort of the furthest away, but when I say furthest away, it's still within 5 minutes of the center of Reading, easily accessible by police and fire, emergency vehicles. And it's next to the ice arena and some outdoor ball fields, which are behind the ice arena. And you can see there's quite a bit of parking for the ice arena. Again, we haven't approached them. We don't know if it would be feasible, but one has to think that there would be some opportunities for shared parking, that they may actually on their tournament events on weekends be desirous of using some parking that's related to the senior center. So there's potential that if this site was chosen, we would begin some discussions about what do you do in the worst case scenario for either facility? Is there an opportunity to share some overflow parking? Here we have the building area. We have parking area. Here we can put pickleball. It's not included in the budget, but you're not bothering anybody by putting a pickleball court here. It's the backside of an ice arena with no windows on it, and a chiller that's making its own fair racket. This is a dry portion of the site, but on the right, it's a wetland site. And there has been some discussion of this being a Nike missile silo site, missile, not silo, but missile site. Actually, the Nike missile site was this strip here, and this road was put in on the edge of the site. So this site wasn't actually, it was cleared and used for access, but it wasn't housing flammable missiles. And there happens to be a rifle range, gun club at the far end of this range road, which is also called Simmons Way. And there's some question as to whether there was ever in the old days firing in the other direction where he may have led debris from bullets on the edge of this site. So that may be a little long shot, but something that we would have to do due diligence on should the site be selected. Here's the wetland line. There's a desire on the town to carve out a parcel that follows the road. The town owns this road. There's an easement that allows the gun club to use that area and get to their rifle range. This portion of the site is wetland. And in that area is this area. It's quite nice. You extend Range Road up to this point. You have two ways into a driveway. One, you come here, you drop off, conveniently disembark. Passengers are on the correct side of the car, go into the building. The person can then drive. If you're in a wheelchair, you can get out, drop the wheelchair patron, then go park. Using the pickleball, you can come park here. There's spaces at this end for pickleball, and that fits in nicely, as I mentioned, behind the ice arena. Now, I mentioned a couple of times we're trying to level out these schemes as much as possible. So the pickleball is not included in the budget of this scheme because it's not really feasible on the Oakland Road site, and it doesn't fit on the Pleasant Street site. So to make things equal, we're not including it, but we're pointing out that should you want it, it is feasible here. And of course, it's feasible someplace else if the town so desires. Here's that 150-foot radius for your parking. One issue on this site is it's a little bit remote. It's off the beaten track. You have Haverhill Street, and then you have to come down Simmons Way, and then you get here and you go in and there's the community center, senior center. So it doesn't have frontage, and having frontage out on a main street can be good for business at a council on aging senior center or for a rec center. It's just people see that it's an active use. It's not a deal breaker. It's not a lot of residential use on this traffic, on this street that you're bothering getting to your site. Here you can see the site's been dug up. They brought some water lines down to the gun club to put sprinklers in their building. So we know that water at least is coming to this manhole. We have to extend sewer to this site, which it doesn't have. There you go to the parking lot for the ice arena. So you'd go this way to the senior center / gym, this way to the other facility. And then the building and parking lot fronts on this road. So it makes quite a nice complex in terms of uses. As I mentioned, utilities need to be brought to it. Stormwater is doable. It'll be clearly a little more challenging because this site is a more wet site, has a lot of wetlands next to it. So, you know, it'll be more challenging, but there's not a real inability to manage the stormwater. I do want to hit on the environmental. I sort of alluded to it, you know, that just because of its previous use and some of the very preliminary tests that were done in and around the site, there are some contaminants. They're at a very low level. It's something that at the next phase needs to be brought through to due diligence, but there's no red flag that came up that said this is not a doable site. What a site like this has, it's been wooded and has trees on it for centuries, is it has what's called forest mat. So there's a good 2 to 2.5, 3 feet of soil on top of the site that's disintegrated leaves and pine needles and twigs, and that's not good for buildings. That's organic material. So this particular site needs to be scraped of that organic material and then rebuilt. So that is a cost that's put into the budget. But again, you know, Pleasant Street has the garage cost, Oakland Road has the fill cost and the bedrock cost, and this one has the additional cost for the soil fill. And just because it is a wetland, and we know that wetlands are growing as global warming occurs, we've priced the particular building on this site plan. The footprint of the building is raised 2 feet above the surrounding grade. So it would be have quite a capacity for the water level to rise over the next 50 to 100 years time on this site by raising that building up. It'd still be handicap accessible. We'd raise the parking lot as well. As you look at that site, there is some debris on it, but there's an old car that it's unfortunate, probably had some value a couple of years ago. It was a Model T or a antique automobile. There doesn't seem to be any gasoline residue in the soil borings from that or other things left on the site. This just shows an aerial. Here's the ice arena. That's the Nike site. This is the site that we're looking at. So again, this is like Oakland Road. Community centers not allowed, but non-profit cultural facility is allowed. So these are the floor plans. This is that 2,000 square feet on the floor, 4,000 square foot existing fire station building. We're proposing the possibility of putting an addition. We're meeting with Historic Commission tomorrow night to see what they feel about that. There's also an addition on the back. We'll be talking to them about that. We think this one may be controversial. This one on the back, probably less controversial. And then the one I mentioned on the side where we're taking off that white addition, that's where the bulk of the new building is going. You get the 2 levels of parking on this side. You get there's a parking at this level, which is Pleasant Street. There's a parking below this off of Parker Street, which is a level below. And then you come in, there's a multi-purpose room and the public kitchen and restroom. So the big activities are at this level. The senior specific activities are on the 2nd floor, arts and crafts, game room, gross motor room, senior center offices. And when you put a gym there, that takes up the back portion over the cars. There's the lower level of the parking. You can imagine you come in, you look for a space, you can't find one, you've got to come out, go back out to the street, up to Pleasant Street. The fact that there's no internal ramp connecting the 2 levels of the garage is really a pretty significant compromise in our opinion. This particular scheme, as I said, we tried to equalize the options, but there's just not room available on the site. So there's about almost 3,000 square feet less program area when we use Pleasant Street than when we go to the all-new sites. So of their program, they don't have the large program room, they don't have the fitness studio, they don't have a senior lounge, and they don't have a program coordinator. And in all the other schemes, there's a walking track above the gym, but because of how this is configured, you're on the 2nd floor, the walking track is above the gym, and the gym is on the 2nd floor. You'd have to build stairs and elevators to get up to the 3rd floor where the track is. It just gets prohibitively expensive to put a track in on this particular scheme. The new build options, the same building can go on either site. And again, when we have the gym, it's exactly the same size gym that would be at Pleasant Street, same size multi-purpose room, same size offices for seniors, same size program rooms. But in the new building, you get the full complement of program spaces. What's really nice when you have a new building, you have some freedom for how to orient it. And with an eye on at night or when senior programming isn't a priority, you have the opportunity to come in and use the multi-purpose room at night, because the lobby takes you to the multi-purpose room when you turn right. Turn left goes to those special and senior center offices and senior center rooms. So you could literally close off the senior center and have a board of selectmen or select board meeting. You could have finance committee, you could have rentals out of this multipurpose room. You can come in and use the gym for recreational purposes if the seniors and recreation have that type of an agreement. So what this scheme is showing is there's a huge opportunity to share space without encroaching on the senior center and having people wander through the senior center when kids are coming to play basketball at night, for example. And the way it's organized is that the gym is completely separated from any senior center room by a series of storerooms, by a corridor, by another wall. So it's the bouncing of basketballs, pickleball. There are 3 pickleball courts can fit in this gym. That kind of noise would not be bothering the senior center use. And what's also nice is that this wall on the gym could be a glass wall, so parents could come in and see what's going on, wait for their kids, not bother the coaches and the kids that might be finishing up a game, but they can, you know, really see what's going on. So, you know, being a parent, I love that, not being in the dark about what's going on when they're coming out, getting to see what's happening. These are the kinds of things that the flexibility of a new design give you that aren't really possible when we renovate Pleasant Street. So what we've done is we've done 2 schemes. You could certainly build this building without the gym, and you would have an 8,100 square foot, 18,100 square foot building. And that's the same size building that could go on Pleasant Street if you didn't have a gym. So what we're saying is if the town so desires to build a facility either at Pleasant Street or on a new site without a gym, you can get the full complement of programs. We don't necessarily have the parking solved at Pleasant Street, but the buildings are level from a programmatic perspective. Where they don't level out is when you get the gym, you can still get the full senior center program and a gym at Oakland Road and Simmons Way, but you give up that 3,000 square feet of space at Pleasant Street when you have the gym. So what does all this cost? It's people are surprised these days, and costs have increased quite a bit due to inflation, but Pleasant Street, the cost of the build out with the gym is very close to Oakland Street and Simmons Way, although the square footage is a bit smaller. And one reason there's this discrepancy in the square footage is the walking track itself is quite a bit of square footage, and that's counted in this square footage. And it sort of tips the scale square footage wise, and I don't really like to count that square footage, because putting a track in a gym, there's no extra lighting, there's no extra heating, there's no walls. It's really a little bit of structure and a floor, and you have your track. It's cheap space to build. It shouldn't really reflect that big of a program change. So that's why in that previous slide I was pretty clear about the difference in the programs. But they're surprisingly close in their budgets, $28 million rounded off. If you were to take the gym off of the program, then the Oakland Road and Simmons Way really do have a bit of a benefit, about $4 million less expensive than Pleasant Street, because while we're taking the gym out of Pleasant Street, we're taking the gym out of Oakland Road, we're adding that square footage back to equalize Pleasant Street with this. So it gets the penalty of that 3,000 square foot of program space being added to equalize it. And when you have Pleasant Street with 2 levels of parking deck, that's already got a cost penalty to it to build those parking decks. I mentioned there's some opportunities to add on to the building at Pleasant Street that we're meeting with Historic Commission tomorrow night. we didn't want to include those, but if we're successful on the addition in front of the garage doors, that would add 1.436 million to the cost. That also adds a kitchen on the back. And then if you add the space over the gym, the breakout of that space that I was discussing is 3,670,000. Another way to look at it is what's the cost of the gym at Oakland Road and Simmons Way. The gym and the walking track cost you $5,500,000. There's a little bit of site work in there, obviously, for the building, but you also need more parking if there's a gym. So that cost includes the reduction in parking at those two sites. And some people had asked, well, what's the cost of the parking garage? You know, there may be additional highway department funds for downtown parking where you could perhaps find a way to fund the garage at Pleasant Street in a different manner, or maybe build a garage at a different location. So we pulled out, for talk's sake, the cost that's embedded in that estimate for the parking garage. And just out of curiosity, if you built the pickleball at Simmons Way, it's about a $400,000 cost for those pickleball courts. So we have a huge amount of data on the sites, 4 pages. Each site's been treated in a really rigorous and fair manner. We're trying not to have a bias on anyone's site. We've gone through and sort of evaluated against key criteria, but the next step is to take a very detailed criteria sheet and have the groups that are assigned by the town to do the evaluation, evaluate the building on 12 key factors. And within each factor, there are 3 ranking levels. And what this is designed to do is to make the judging of your sites as fair as possible, because we're judging each building against the same criteria, and points are allowed for how you decide something is successfully or unsuccessfully met. So it levels out your judging. And then at the end of the review, each reviewer has 20 points where they can make, I call this objective analysis, and this is subjective analysis, where they might say something like, I think the site works great as a senior center. One person said, well, here's a good example. I'm allergic to oak trees, and there are oak trees on that site, so I don't like that particular site. That's a very personal decision, but we think it's important for people to have room to write a short paragraph that says personally why they like or don't like a particular site. We learn a lot from those kind of issues. And thank you for giving me so much time. We're, as I mentioned, we're about halfway through the feasibility study process. We're here in 2024. The intent is to finish schematic design this year, have enough time to present it to the community, bring it to town vote in 2025, and start construction in 2026. You have to do construction drawings and a lot of other work once the town decides to vote on a particular project. But the goal now is to identify a site and then go full bore into exactly what does that building look like. So I'm going to stop the share, and I really appreciate the amount of time we had to get through this tonight. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Good.
great.
Great presentation.
Questions?
I have one question on the gym. Is the gymnasium going to be used? I don't know if it's is it for like the rec basketball, or is it going Or was it too far in advance to kind of?
I mean, I would think it'd be a joint venture, and I came from Marblehead where we had a shared senior center and a recreation center, and pretty much from, 8 in the morning to 4 p.m. There was a lot of senior events in there, whether it was dance, pickleball, or chair yoga, things like that. Then at 4 o'clock, when the seniors were heading home for dinner, kind of transitioned over, and then it became a rec space where it was pickleball, we had community events in there, the daddy-daughter dances were in there.
Oh, okay.
Basketball, there could be kickball, volleyball, so I feel as if we would utilize dodgeball.
Yeah.
So I feel like it would be multi-use
Okay.
and it would fill quickly. I could see that being full from whenever we had it until it closed.
Is it designed like for spectators? Because it looks like it's pretty tight in there. Is it more designed just for like you were saying?
I would assume there probably wouldn't be bleachers in this, Joel.
We put 1 or 2 bleachers on each side. It's not really, adding space for bleachers can make the gym quite a bit bigger, and so we didn't have that, but that's one reason that circulation corridor doubles up as spectator viewing corridor outside of the gym on the new build. And on the new build, when you have the track, of course, you can have, if you had a Saturday basketball event, people can stand on the track and watch the basketball game.
I don't.
Yeah, because a big issue in Reading is a lot of the gyms that they currently have don't have
Pretty tight.
seating.
Right, pretty tight.
Now, I know it's something at Killam that we're talking about as well, and they're gonna try to get bleachers in Killam so that spectators can get in there, so I don't.
It's certainly something that could be topic of discussion.
Yeah, like the foliage is real tight and obviously the wide, real.
Doesn't have, the bridge just walls.
Yeah, right, exactly. Exactly.
Any other questions?
Oh, very good.
I have a question. This is, I'll put you on the spot. If you had your choice, where would you put it?
I don't know if I can say that.
That's like, yeah, absolutely.
And I'll admit I have a favorite site, but we're trying to be unbiased.
I withdraw my question. It's pretty clear.
I've been trying to tell everybody on the Joe Friday of architects that it's the facts, just the facts.
Cost, you can.
Well, Ragnar, call back. I like that.
I will,
Copy.
I hope at the end of this, we're doing our own evaluation form this week. And I'm gonna submit that to Jenna, and hopefully that'll be part of the evaluation.
Nice.
Joel, this is Mike Coleman. I have one question on the square footage on the cost slides. At one point, I think you had said that was a typo and it was supposed to be
I know.
20.6.
I had the numbers backwards.
Okay.
So it was correct, and the 26.3 is correct because that included the track. And I was thinking it typically doesn't include the track, but
okay.
that number is, yeah, sorry about that.
Thank you, Joel. And Michael, just another quick question. You are the liaison to Recalc. So is there any other information you think would be beneficial to hear from the rec committee at this time? Any questions that you could bring back to the team?
I mean, the one thing that, in terms of the gym discussion, the 60+ community could really use a gym. They would love to have a gym. And none of the gyms in town are available until like 6 o'clock. They haven't available. So that's a big plus for a part of the senior community that in general is not represented at Pleasant Street because Pleasant Street doesn't have a gym. And the great room at Pleasant Street is full for active programs and other things. So there's really is a need for more space for this.
What would the gym be used for?
Pickleball, Zumba, line dancing, all the other things.
I mean, other than, dancing, pickleball.
All adult basketball, we have an
Adult
adult league going as well, so I mean, even the 50+,
In the gyms that they're talking about have partitions, so you could partition it and run one thing in one part, other stuff in another thing, so. There's,
Yeah,
I have experience at the AmeriCall Center over in Wakefield,
Badminton.
and they run pickleball, badminton, volleyball. I didn't know about much,
Bocciano, the seniors.
but they do, and they also do a lot of motion stuff.
I'm hard.
yeah, there was a lot of discussion too about having larger events in the gym. Obviously we have the multi-purpose room, but you could have an even larger event in the gym. A performance, a big prom. We had a big new bingo event at Hillview last year, which was really successful. We had over 100 seniors attend that. So that was also a discussion that could be a benefit. And then also our town clerk has indicated that there's a need for another voting location, that down the line that might be taking voting out of schools. And having a larger space in the community would be extremely helpful for her and her team moving forward.
Of the program for after school in Reading, but just as another example for how the synergy works in Pembroke, they have 100 kids in an after school program, and they put the recreation and seniors together in a building just like this, where there's a gym, and then after school at 4 o'clock, the kids can use the multi-purpose room. They do their homework for an hour, and then they have free use of the gym. The parents come and pick them up between 5:30 and 6, and it works perfectly. So that it's not just the gym that can be shared, but that in other communities that the multi-purpose room can be shared at times. So there's a lot of good synergy that can be developed.
Yep.
Are those costs based on 2026 construction cost or today?
They're based on starting in 2026, yeah.
And has anybody
Yeah.
done an analysis, or is it too early as to what that would cost the taxpayer or the average taxpayer?
That would be done,
After us,
I think we pick the site and before we're going to town meeting for.
well,
vote,
that could become one of the reasons why someone would pick one site over another, right?
Yeah,
Well,
he
they're so
didn't.
close in cost.
It should be, what's that?
Too close in cost.
Go ahead, Joel. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
didn't
they're very similar in their costs, so we thought.
Right,
Yeah.
well,
It's $1,000.
But I think it's a good point. We could ask that.
We did the math. I'm like today.
oh, really? What's the average that they use?
Or 7.
And there are a lot of projects coming off of the debt. So we get Wood End, the library.
What ends off? You mean the high school and?
Yep, the high school, the
the
library.
library?
And then there's one other,
Yeah.
but still how much Killam will be and how much a potential community center will be, will probably be a larger, figure for the taxpayer. And that number will be determined by probably our head finance director, Sharon.
Killam's kind of on the same.
What organization in the town will be managing this?
And.
Jenna was kind of playing around with
I
the
don't know
org
exactly.
chart
They're
a
the
little bit
next-
as far as who would be overseeing
I
the
think in the
entire
next
site. I don't know where we're at with that, Jenna.
There's a building.
Yeah, so I think if it is a Reading Center for Active Living with an emphasis obviously on mostly the 60 plus population, but opportunity for some shared spaces to be available to recreation, and all of the offices would be in there. It just comes down to a simple policy decision with staff and stakeholders. So I think right now the concern could be, okay, well, we trust Jim and Chris right now, and Jim and Chris get along right now, working well with even sharing space at the current senior center at nighttime. But if Jim and Chris were to leave, what would happen? How does that relationship work, and how do we continue to share the space and make sure that one organization is overtaking the other organization. And I think it's just going to be a team effort. And I think it's something that we can come together and figure it out quite easily. And there's other models that exist in several other towns, and Recalc has seen it with all of their visits to numerous community centers / senior centers, and have gotten a lot of data. So we can come up with a great plan, I think. And Jim's been very active in Marblehead before, and they had a similar model too. So he'll be instrumental in helping create something moving forward.
Thank you. And no other questions, move on. Joel, thank you very much.
Thank you, Joel.
Give him. Man, that's community center already.
2 minutes for the opening ball.
2 minutes.
This will be quick.
2 minutes.
This will be quick.
We're ahead of schedule.
This will be quick. And I think before Michael goes, I think I kind of want to just say how we got to here. So I met with Michael
Floor is yours.
probably a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And I've tasked Michael with kind of being the point person for pickleball. He's in the guts of it, I guess. And he sees it and he knows the people. So I've kind of tasked him with keeping us in the loop on what's going on there. I'm still overseeing, checking in on playtime scheduler, play local, making some of the rules that we put out there. Michael and I kind of started a little bit of a rough draft that we got to follow up with kind of our expectations down there. And what I can say, I know we're only at April 9th and I'm knocking on wood. It has been a good early spring right now with the courts down at pickleball. And I'm getting a few questions that do come in, and I have been passing them over to Michael, and I think he's done a good job handling that right now. So I figured today would be a good day to give us a quick little update, as Chuck said, on what's happening down there at the courts.
So I just want to, it is early season, okay? And it's really tough to get everybody who's been in hibernation, and everybody's coming out of the woodwork now with good weather. And I went off to Vermont to watch the eclipse. We had a big event on Sunday that really took up more of my time than I thought. So getting this liaison, trying to talk to everybody. I am well known apparently in town.
No.
And
Think of all the good, think of all the good openings now that you're injured. So.
So trying to manage that, keeping track of who's doing what to whom, and this is a great problem to have. We have a great community in town, and we have lots and lots of new players coming on the scene, and getting them linked up with the appropriate people at their level, playing and all this. So we've tried, our big initiative right now is a Friday night open play from 5 to dark.
Was it 5 or 4? Might be 4.
Might be 4.
I think it's 4 to dark.
And I think this is going to be this is going to be sort of a focal point for lots of new players at all different levels, because you have new players coming in who are very good, and they need to find the rest of that group, that crew. And I'm very hopeful for that. And we'll see, we have to see whether we're going to need more of that or less of that. And daytime stuff. Right now, the courts are starting to get booked up in the mornings, and they're booked up pretty much every
There's still a
evening.
few openings, so I've been checking.
There's still a few.
We're not sold out.
Even today, a nice day, there were a couple openings. But that's not gonna continue. So we did have, I just want to give you another update. We had our big event on Sunday. It was very successful. Lots of people were involved. I think all the select board members were there. Matt Gillis, the town manager, pulled our 50-50 raffle ticket and identified the winner. And it was a fun event. I think we made over 5,000.
Yeah, it's looking like about 5,500. That's all in the raffle and everything, so.
And just so that everybody knows, there's a Facebook page called Reading Players Facebook, and that's one of the tools I'm trying to use to try and coordinate, get to the people in town. That site has nothing to do with the fundraising portion of all of this. It's just a communication tool for Reading pickleball players. Reading Pickleball Players Association is the fundraising arm, and we're north of 115K now.
Yeah.
Somewhere. And if we can get a site, identified, that the fundraising will go easier. Joel talked about 400K for 4 courts. I think that's a little bit on the high end, but I don't know whether, the details. Anybody have any questions about?
I thought that was 8 courts. Was that?
It was only 4 shown there.
That was 4, yeah.
Yeah,
And,
that was court, seems a little high.
Yeah, yeah.
400K, you should be able to easily get 8 courts.
Yeah. That's why I thought.
But not always.
Didn't even look.
Not always no, not tennis courts. Yeah. But they certainly wouldn't go on Oakland Road. That would be nearly impossible.
Oh, that's just moving them up from Birch Meadow across the street.
Yeah.
It's a hill like this.
I know, that,
Of solid rock. So
that site has been
Cut through the
looked
rock.
at by a lot of people.
Kindergarten down there one time.
They've looked at that for everything and it's too expensive.
So-
Yeah.
So we're not going there, which that whole process is will go.
Extra parking up at Oak.
But if anybody hears anything that's going on about pickleball, anybody who is upset with anything, please call me. And when I'm desperate, I'll call Jim, but we'd like to, just try and handle this. It's an easygoing place.
Have you guys had a Friday yet with the open play, or is it?
We've had one, and we only had 2 fights. We only had 4 people come. And it was
rain,
It was
right?
kind of cold,
Yeah.
kind of windy, and
I think this Friday's supposed to be pretty miserable too.
right.
It can be promoted a little bit better as well.
Right.
You know, I think
It's mainly the emotion. I haven't really, and at our big event, I promoted it a lot, especially to the beginners. That
You have them up there.
Now you know how to play the game.
Yep.
Come find your crew.
Yeah, and I did speak with the woman. I think I passed one over to you as well. She stopped by and we talked about it. And I talked about the Friday night open and she wants to bring her kids down there and stuff as well too, because it could turn into maybe there's a family fun night that will see some hours as well too. And I think that will help kind of bring a little bit of the noise down as well. And like you said, help people learn what to do, how to book courts and what they can and can't do.
And we have a tentative draft set of rules, if you will, about things. And one of the keys is no profanity on the court. I can't play. That's a challenge sometimes.
Donation are $10.
I raise some money.
No, I appreciate you doing it, Michael. I know it's not easy. I appreciate that.
Thanks. Anybody having a question? Yeah.
I just wanted to bring to your attention something that was achieved just this week. The Trails Committee, in conjunction with some Boy Scout, Eagle Scout volunteers, we finished connecting a trail that goes from Main Street 28 all the way across to Haverhill. And so I think that's a really significant achievement. It's sort of helps my vision or of weaving together the town. And there's parking right now for maybe a dozen cars at Camp Matera, which is off of 28. And then it's a really beautiful hike. It's about a 1.5 or 2 mile hike from Camp Matera all over to Haverhill. And right now on Haverhill, there's no crossing place per se, but if that could be addressed either with, just crossing lights, a speed bump, that would enable people from one side of Haverhill over to the, I think it's the Nike missile range. But I just think it's really neat. I wanted you guys to know that you can walk from Main Street to Haverhill.
Nice.
That's great.
Is that the one that was in the paper? It was on the front page of the Daily Times Chronicle? That Eagle Scouts did it?
Well, they were responsible in just this past week in finishing up maybe the last 50 feet. It goes into the sort of like the town cemetery on Pearl.
Yeah.
And Ben, on something like that too, if you want to give me a heads up and we can get it on the agenda just to recognize the folks who did that.
Yeah.
I think it'd be a good idea too, you know?
Yeah, there's a few people still get.
Well, I'm not trying to keep it a secret. We just got it this week, but going forward, I definitely will.
Thank you.
So Ben, on the recalc side, are there walking trails on the far side of Haverhill that don't go into the Nike site? Through those wetlands on the north side?
Not really. I mean, it sort of goes on to Haverhill between St. Athanasius Church and the Monhan's Lumber.
Right.
So a crossing across Haverhill would need to be established. And of course, Haverhill, as we all know, is kind of a busy place. And so just cracking that nut would be important. But if we can do that, then we can maybe take advantage of some of the parking off St. Athanasius. And above Camp Matera, there's a terrace garden that people have assumed responsibility for growing fruits and vegetables and offering sustainability perhaps to students and seniors alike.
Yep.
Great.
But that's the community garden. So
Yeah.
I'm not sure.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Cool. It's good use of space.
Thank you. On to the next topic, Jim.
Yeah, we're gonna let Mr. Ed go first, give a quick update on what he's been up to in the last few weeks.
Well, next week's April vacation, I went into we offered like 5 programs originally for April vacation, Tuesday through Friday. 3 of them kind of stuck with some good numbers. We have a science program with top-notch science, an SNL sports camp, and then a Ninja Warrior program with Knuckle Bones. Ninja Warrior has actually been a pretty popular program for us, which is interesting. But what I've spent most of my time doing since we last met was planning and finalizing all of our summer programs, which went live on March 28th. We definitely have a busy schedule this summer with a ton of options every week throughout the whole summer. We've kind of, partnered and been working with a ton of the high school varsity coaches who offer clinics, football, field hockey, basketball. We're doing a cross country clinic over at the Forest. So I just think that's a cool kind of relationship we've had. I mean, they've already had those well before I was here, but I just think it's a cool.
Cross country's first time this year though.
Cross country is first.
High school coach.
I'm a football coach the first time too. Right?
Yeah.
How's that going? How's that registration going?
I think we're up to 420 now, and he is asking for the link this week, so I don't know how much he really is pushing it, so should be good. Should be good. And then obviously we have a ton of other offerings with our, normal vendors like SNL, Sports Zone, SNL and all that, or Knuckle Bumps. Lastly, summer vacation, we wrapped up interviewing 40 people for counselor positions. We ended up, I think we have 11 new hires coming in. And And then we're just kind of working on finalizing dates for orientation and CPR courses for all the counselors. And I've been working on booking some entertainment, people to come in to camp, kind of split up the days, help break stuff up. We have like a flying high dog like frisbee show, Toe Jam puppet band, which they're great, they're like a kids band, coming to ice, and some like slip and slides and science shows coming in for that. So looking forward to a fun summer there. So
Do you guys still get Wayne from Maine?
Wayne from Maine, I haven't heard that name in 15 years.
Shows my
Toe
age.
Jam Puppet Band is the new Wayne.
I was gonna say.
Much better, but no, kudos to Ed for doing all that stuff too.
Thank you, Ed.
Thank you. Ed.
Thanks,
I've been
Ed.
doing this 18 years or so, and the fact that we had 45 kids apply for a summer camp position, like I talked to other towns and friends, and they're begging us to send them the staff we don't have. We're not doing that quite yet, because a few kids that will bail out, but we had to turn away a lot of kids. And again, kudos to Ed and our summer camp directors as well, that sat down with all these young kids who come in and they're nervous as can be. So they're gaining a lot out of it, even though if they don't get a job, we're consistently encouraging them to come in.
And how many reapplies or,
we have like
25.
so the difference was,
We're coming back.
did they have to reapply or did they, or?
We keep them on staff because a lot of them will work some birthday parties that we do. We have the Rocket birthday party, so we do keep them on staff as well. We just have them do Corey's as well too, but we do evaluations at the end of the year. So our directors sit down with that. I sit down on some as well, and we do an evaluation on all these staff and we mark, we'd be interested in having them come back. If we have questions, we'll have them come back and interview. If we don't think they're a good fit and they've been told different things they need to work on, we won't ask them to come back. We'll ask them to reapply next year. I believe in taking the best. Some kids come in, they start off good and they get comfortable. And that's where you get into trouble, especially with kids at a summer camp. So it's nice to have that extra staff as well too. Because if we do need to ask someone to, leave, we have someone that's ready to swoop right in as well. So it puts a little pressure on these kids, knowing that there is a list of 35 plus kids looking to get in there as well too. So. Good job. All right, some things we're working on. I know we got Nelson on here too. I haven't met you yet, Nelson, but I just wanted to mention Nelson's kind of been involved with talking with Jenna and Kate as well. The tennis courts at Bancroft, they're at the point where they need to be resurfaced again as well. I went out there last week, myself, Ed and Ryan went out there, the town engineer, and we did see some cracks that are pretty significant in the court. We saw a lot of areas too that starting the bowl where water is constantly resting on there. We actually saw the high school coach out there, spoke to him as well too, and the kids are always out there squeegeeing as well when we do get some rain. And when we do get rain, it gets the court a little mucky and a little slick too. So I know Jenna and I know Nelson and Kate were talking about some grants they're currently working on as well. So I appreciate you, Nelson, kind of taking the lead and jumping on. I don't know if you want to jump in and say hello. What you're interested in as well too, because moving forward, you're probably going to be kind of a big part in trying to get these courts back up to where they once were.
Yes, thanks, Jim. I have a daughter that's a 7th grader in Coolidge Middle School and a big fan of tennis. And I also play a lot of tennis. I played in the Reading Tennis Open that Larry Lebatique runs every year to raise money for supporting the high school teams. And I think that our Reading Birch Meadow tennis courts are really fantastic. There are a few courts with lights. And so there's actually a lot of people from out of town coming to Reading to use our courts at night, which sometimes gets a little contentious because even though we have the place scheduler, they're packed in the summertime. So they're really, really heavily used. But they are showing a lot of wear and tear. There's a lot of cracks and the surface needs to be repainted. But last year, Coco Gauff won the US Open. And so the USTA has a grant initiative called the US Open Legacy Initiative that actually adds 15% more to any grants that public facilities and towns can apply for. So if we can successfully get a grant for this, that could come up to like $35,000 that the USTA could potentially grant to us if we're successful in getting a grant. And I got some quotes from some vendors that price out repairing the cracks and repainting the surfaces. And the cost is around $90K, maybe at most $100K. to repair and resurface all 6 of the courts at Birch Meadow. So I think that, if we can get this grant, that might add some impetus to get this project started sooner rather than later. My hope is to get it all fixed up so that when my daughter can try out for the team, Reading will have new courts and have, really good home court advantage. So that's my motivation for doing this. And I hope that I can work with your committee to make this happen.
Appreciate it, Nelson. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, nice.
All right, a few quick updates from me that I just wanted. I spent a lot of this past month working on procurement for all the folks who run programs with us that make over 10,000. It's a kind of a little bit of an extensive process, so we're good for the next 3 years. I don't have to do that again, which will be nice. I'm gonna share my screen again just to show you some pictures. I never show you pictures. I kind of talk about the stuff that's going on. But I never really show you photos. So one thing I wanted to show folks was what DPW has been up to. So I don't know if you've been at Barrows, Bob, you've probably been there.
I honestly, I'm not. I saw pictures. I gotta get over there.
Barrows was
Awesome.
in basically extreme bad shape. I went out there last fall and then early this spring, and it was a field that I honestly didn't feel like it was safe for the kids to play in. Where those infields were, the lips they looked like ski jumps. If kids chasing a fly ball, there was such depressions where I was afraid kids were gonna roll their ankles, blow out their knees. So I found out that Reading Little League was in desperate need of using this for their younger division, the 6 and 7-year-olds. So I met down there with Mike Hannaford, who's the Parks and Cemetery and Forestry Director through DPW. And we kind of chatted about some stuff. Reading Little League had some money that they were gonna put on other fields, and we kind of looked at this one, and then Mike said to me, I can probably have my guys do this. We just might need some help with some sod. So at that point, instead of taking away a field, we don't have enough field space as it is, as we all know. We came up with a plan. His guys could take care of the field, and they've been out there since, I want to say probably for 3 weeks or so, regrading this entire area, getting it level, bringing in clay, bringing in topsoil for the grass. These photos were from about a week ago. I'm going to show you the next one as well. I don't know if I can just scroll.
Is there a sprinkler system in there?
So that was another thing. So I had to rely on Pete Isbell, who I should give props as well, over at the water department. There was a fountain on the backside of this field. I don't think any of these photos are going to show the backside of the field. So an issue was that we needed to keep the sod watered immediately as soon as it gets out there. So Pete Isbell and his crew went out there and they hooked up a hose. They were actually out there today getting more pressure to that hose so that they can run more water. One good thing with the rain, all the rain that we've had over the last week, they haven't had to water a lot. But a day like today, the crew is out there as well. And Jared Stanton, who is the field coordinator for Reading Little League, he's new this year. We're gonna be coming up with a plan for the weekend. So whether it's myself getting out there, turning on the sprinklers, getting this watered, or his volunteer coaches, we're gonna make sure that this grass does take, because it does need to stay wet consistently, or it will die pretty quick. So I just wanna, there's a crew of about 8 to 10 guys that have been out here, and this field is probably gonna be one of the nicest fields in town right now. And I mean, probably all in, we're looking at $4,000 just to get this field up and playable for this week. So
Those are DPW guys? or-
these are all DPW guys out here.
Give them kudos, that's great.
Yeah, and Little League went over there, bought them all coffee, got them all donuts. So this was this morning. They got the last half of the sod in, on that other side. What they're gonna do is they're gonna bring clay too. You can kind of see that the grass is a little bit higher than the dirt right now, so they're bringing in additional clay. They'll level that off, and the goal is to have this field open and fully functional towards the end of April. It may go into March. May, I'm sorry. We're not going backwards. In May, so I just wanted to give them
Oh, that's awesome.
so if you see the guys at DPW or any of the DPW staff, just give them a kudos on that. And just another fun photo, I think a good way to end the meeting. I don't know if I had any other stuff that I wanted to bring up today. I'm sure it was. This was our last trip that we had with the folks over at the Reading Memorial High School that we did with the YMCA, the Best Buddies as well. We all went to the Celtics game. We had a total of 33 kids. We all met over at the Reading train station. And I'm not sure if they enjoyed the game more or if they enjoyed getting on that train. Going in there was something cool. A lot of these kids have never been on a train without, our parents sitting side by side. We were lucky enough to get seats up in the, what do they call that? I can't think of the rafters, but they called it the something lounge or the club, but it was all the way up at the top. So literally we got right into North Station, had an elevator, shot right up there.
Legends Club, I think it is.
What's it called?
Legend?
Like the Legend Club.
Boston
Um,
Society, a garden society.
So we were up at the top and we had our own little section, 2 rows of seats that were overlooking the court, and a neat part too, we also had a sensory room that was sitting directly behind us. So
Oh,
there's a
nice.
few folks who wear headphones, they get overstimulated. So if an issue arose, we had that sensory room where they could go back into get away from the noise and relax. Ended up getting back about 10:30. The kids had a blast. We left a little bit early because the train, I think, rolled about, what time did it? 9:40, I think it was. And if we missed that train, we would have been stuck there till
Yeah.
11:20. So we made sure we were there in plenty of time. So I want to give thanks to
Good to
John
have a
Fudo.
for DraftKings.
I know, I almost cut that out.
Literally.
Yeah, we couldn't get a photo of them all above there. I was too excited to watch the game. It was another great event. Thanks to John Fudo. Thanks to the staff who were work over at the Reading High School and the special education department. Thanks to, there's a number of best buddies that are in here as well. So we had the students, we had staff from 3 different organizations, and I worked in other towns. You don't see town departments like rec departments getting along with school departments, and rec departments, let alone getting along with YMCA's as well. So the fact that we have this, I think it speaks volumes to the town and the people that are in these positions as well. So that's how I'll end this meeting.
Nice.
Else, or anyone want to make a motion?
To adjourn.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Thank you,
All
everyone.
right, thanks for dealing with all my emails, everyone. All right.
Thank you.
Jenna, can I ask you a quick question?
Sure. He might end the meeting, but
Oh, okay. Are you all set with the grant application or do you need more help from me?
no, so all I need to do is enter in that USTA number, which I think that I'll be able to get. Like if the one that we have doesn't work, I can just reapply for our own tomorrow.
Okay.
And it should be done by tomorrow. So I'll let you know. The one that I'm applying for is the awards up to 25,000. I think
Yeah,
I
add
said,
do the legacy one though, because that adds another 15% more. So you can get up to 35,000.
should I do both or?
Yeah, do both, but the US Open Legacy one adds another 15% on top. So you can get up to 35,000 for that one.
Okay. So the hold on. So the USTA also does the US Open Legacy one?
Yes.
Okay.
It's on the link. You'll see like Coco Gauff's face. It says US Open Legacy Initiative. It's on the same inquiry form that you filled out before, but just specify, whatever information on the project planning or in the comments page that you're applying for the US Open Legacy Initiative. Because
Okay.
that was because it's for public facilities. Coco Gauff had trained on public park courts. So that's what they're doing. It might get the grant up there in the review process.
Okay, awesome. All right, so I'll do that tomorrow, and if I have any issues with that one, I'll let you know.
Okay, great.
All right, thanks, Nelson. Thanks
Very
for
welcome.
coming.
Nice to meet you, Jenna.
You
Have a
too.
good night.
You too. Bye.